So here we have LaChapelle and Mo Markham representing the Kitchener-Waterloo chapter of Extinction Rebellion. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
My pleasure.
Extinction Rebellion is a global environmental movement that uses non-violent civil disobedience to compel government action to avoid tipping points in the climate system, biodiversity loss, and the risk of social and ecological collapse. So many people hear the words biodiversity and the environmental crisis, but they don't really know what it means to them. Can you explain Extinction Rebellion for the everyday person?
Extinction Rebellion is founded on the observation that we're in the middle of the sixth mass extinction. A mass extinction is when 3/4 of the species of the planet vanish, they go extinct. People in Extinction Rebellion are aware that things have gotten so extreme and so critical that the threshold has been reached where we can't be polite anymore in our resistance. We have to start using the tools of nonviolent civil disobedience to absolutely hold the line against any further development of these ecocidal tendencies in our society.
It's to pressure government, but it's also to make people aware, the public aware, because their governments aren't being honest with people. They're acting as if everything is just going along as it used to. Throughout history, movements that have gone to the extreme of civil disobedience have been effective. That happened in the women's movement, the civil rights movement, the apartheid movement, and that's what made change. And so that's why we're here, not to cause people problems, but to insist that change happens before it's too late.
So now I want to talk about the work you're doing in Kitchener-Waterloo. Can you tell me about the focus of your specific chapter?
We're working on and planning actions, again, to interrupt the status quo. We have done some actions, and we have some others planned coming up that we can't necessarily tell you about.
The theory of change is that if 3.5% of the population of a society are consistently in the streets, defying the government, breaking certain laws, and absolutely refusing to cooperate with certain policies, societies do change. Extinction Rebellion endorses tactics, civil disobedience tactics, including breaking the law, disrupting the status quo. This is done in part to advance 3 specific goals. One of them is a demand, the first demand, that governments tell the truth. The second is act now. So governments have to use every means at their disposal to try to address these problems, means that they currently have. The third demand is that a citizens' assembly be formed. A citizens' assembly or citizens' journey amasses a representative sample of the population, presents them with very objective evidence about the true situation that we're facing, and takes policy decisions from them that are in some way binding on the government.
One of the things that Extinction Rebellion does throughout the world is they start with doing what they call the talk, gathering people together and helping them to understand exactly how far things have gone, which, as I said before, most people don't really understand how dire the situation is. But one of the reasons that Extinction Rebellion internationally does the talk first is to gather people in and to help us to get to that 3.5% of the population.
We also think a lot about degrowth. What does it look like to shrink the economy voluntarily? It's going to feel like a global Great Depression. It's just going to be one we do on purpose. There's certainly a celebratory element to XR actions. There's a lot of theatricality. You may have seen the Red Brigade protesters with the white faces and the gorgeous flowing red robes. There's a real attempt to build an alternative culture along with the more strident militant action that we do.
So what would you like to say to the everyday person? And if they decide to get involved, what are some easy things that they can do?
What does it take? What's the threshold for you? What's the threshold for you when things get bad enough that you say, that's it. I have to step out of my comfort zone and do things differently, live differently, commit differently, act differently. it's gotten that bad. That point's going to come, I believe, for everybody eventually. I think it makes a lot of sense to take that step sooner rather than later. Why aren't we all working on this all the time? If it's as bad as they say, what are we doing? You can also learn how to safely get arrested, learn what laws you're breaking, learn what your rights are, if that's the route you decide to go. If not, there's all kinds of creative ways you can protest.
I look at people your age and I say, you're probably not going to reach my age if we don't turn things around. And if you do, your life will be so different from mine.
We threw ourselves a carbon party. It started with the Industrial Revolution, and we overshot the end. We really overshot the end. We overstayed our welcome at this carbon party. We're consuming 1.7 planets per year. We don't have 1.7 planets.
All right, well, thank you very much for joining us. That was LaChapelle and Mo Markham for the Extinction Rebellion Kitchener-Waterloo chapter.